pun intended. How do we then navigate in environments, in societies where a significant demographic of the people lean towards such persuasions and ideas, in schools, amongst teachers, practitioners in the education sector, and so forth? We have to navigate our differences with them. What would your advice be to students in MSAs and Islamic societies here who find themselves in that situation, at that crossroads where, subhanAllah, you know, as Muslims, we're pro-Palestine for our brothers and sisters in Palestine and occupied Palestine. Islamophobia affects us. Most Muslims in the UK, 70% plus, are people of colour, so they are non-Caucasian. So these things affect us, and we find that in the university situation, they seem to be the most available allies.
Give me a specific hypothetical.
So
Because what you gave a blanket thing.
It's,
Give me
very,
a specific
it's very common that Islamic societies and MSAs would hold joint events with the Palestine Solidarity Campaign societies or certain pro-Palestine societies. I mean, this is standard. Like many MSAs, many ISOPs will do joint events. Those pro-Palestine societies that exist have left-leaning pro-LGBTQ, atheists, all kinds of things happening there of the left-leaning demographic, and they are also outspoken in Palestine. So when it comes to an Islamic society or an MSA holding an event on an LGBTQ issue, they may have to self-censor to some extent because of their alliance with a non-Muslim or mixed pro-Palestine society. This happens.
I ask myself, where does victory come from?
From Allah, of course.
So then why do I need these groups?
Because we find ourselves in a situation where we do not hold authority and power, and we need
So the mentality from the get-go is we're weak.
Okay.
We're not weak.
So what's your advice to these students?
We have to be original from ourselves, right? Understand where power comes from. I can't give advice to students. I'm not in their shoes, right? But general principles. We're not weak, right? We may be on the chessboard appear weak, right? But true success and victory will not come from those groups, right? It's not going to come from those groups. And on top of that, the Palestine issue. I've never understood local activism on the Palestine issue. Maybe, I guess, raising awareness, right? Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't get too cozy with anyone who I know. In the future, we're going to cross paths. So what do I have to not speak out against? Atheism? No. I can't speak out against anything. I have to censor too much. It's not a good deal, right? So I never seen. So well, why don't I ask you this, right? If this is the norm, what are the results? Show me the result. Show me the profit of such alliances.
I mean, look, those as in like the deliverables. What
where are the deliverables?
Okay, the deliverable. I mean, they could argue a fair amount of things.
No, I want to know what the deliverables are, not what they're arguing they are.
Well, some of the things that would be argued is that Palestine is being discussed in mainstream politics. We've had that in North America and we've had that in the UK. So these politicians, Muslim politicians or non-Muslim politicians, the ones who are pro-LGBTQ or have made alliances with those leaning politicians and activists and movements, they now also speak about Palestine in the House of Parliament. I forgot the Somalian sister's name, the American Democrat. What's her name? I forgot.
Ilhan Omar.
Ilhan Omar. You know, she talks about Palestine. You know, Rashid Tlaib. You know, she slams Israel. You know, so you know this is the outcome. This is the deliverable. This is the result. We are now have politicians who are criticizing Israel and its occupation in the heart of the governments and parliaments of the West.
If a liberal army marched on Israel and said, "We are liberating Gaza. We are making Gaza a state," okay, right? I would say, we're just trading one problem for another. Okay? Yeah. We're just trading one problem for another. Because when those people liberate you, you owe them now, right? I don't want you liberating me, okay? I'll liberate myself. Because if you liberate me, now I owe you. Now I have to tiptoe with your agenda, okay? I have to make sure that you get your paid back. So I'm very careful. If I'm drowning, who saves me, right?
Could there be principled engagement with either left or right?
You're asking somebody who has blacks and whites. Right?
So tell me about your blacks and whites then. Surely there can be times where there can be principled engagement.
This is why I'm not in politics.
On single lone issues.
Yeah, I don't have experience in this because I have a low threshold of tolerance for something that I know in the future there's not going to be much of a relationship here.
So how have you navigated your difference?
I haven't navigated anything. I do my own thing.
You tell him in his many years of traveling, studying, living, surviving, being a community person, you've never had to cross paths with the left.
No, of course I did.
In a work capacity, in an educational capacity, in a community capacity, no?
Of course I did.
So how did you navigate those differences?
In the same way I navigate with a Hindu or a Christian, right? You go do your thing, I'm doing my thing. We had the chair of a department one time, she was a lesbian, right? I did my thing, you do your thing, right? I'm not going to put myself in a situation where we're ever going to have to talk anything outside of the department work.
Okay.
Right? I had colleagues in universities who were homosexuals, right? And who were, okay, you do your thing, I'm doing my thing. What's the business here? That's why I asked, what is a specific relationship?
Okay, and I'm glad you actually gave the anecdotal example of I will treat them or engage with them as I would with a Hindu or someone else. One of the criticisms levied at the navigating differences statement was that the tone and language at times was one of coexistence, acknowledgement, if not overtly, the tone and the language. I know you're going to probably ask for specific quotes. If not, I'm just saying that.
Was that in the text, coexistence?
What?
It was in the text?
Was it in the text?
I can't even remember, to be honest with you.
I can't recall.
I didn't remember
I know that's
any
really
red
bad
flag.
as a host. That's really bad.
Well, we
as a
can
host.
pull it up. Nafis, why don't you pull it up? Tell us if there is coexistence in there.
Yeah.
Why don't I ask you this? Or I'll just tell you this right away. Coexistence to me is something that is not in my choice, right? I have to coexist with the people that are around me. I don't have a choice. You asked me how I navigate it. How I navigated it is, I would say, I deal with them. I don't want to have problems. I'm in my business. You're in your business. Right? That's it.